And Weijia joins us now from the White House. So Weijia, CBS News has learned the Trump campaign fired several pollsters after those internal polling numbers were leaked. I mean, if those numbers are just a worst-case scenario, it's not clear why the president would fire those pollsters unless he wants people in place that will tell him what he wants to hear.
Yeah, Vlad, I mean, this is a case that perfectly shows sometimes actions speak louder than words. And in this case, when you fire your pollsters because those numbers were leaked out, it says a lot about what the president feels about these unflattering numbers. And we know, based on what he has said and based on his actions here, that they really irritate him. So even though the campaign has now officially come out and said, yeah, we did this, the numbers exist, but they represent the worst case scenario, as you mentioned, plus they are old numbers from March. They're trying to brush this off. But the thing is, President Trump refuses to acknowledge that these numbers are old. He continues to say that this poll does not exist at all. That's how much it annoys him that in any scenario, he is trailing the Democrats. But the campaign says even though these numbers exist somewhere in a more likely turnout model that's patterned after what happened in 2016, the president is still leading. And so that is what he is clinging on to. But clearly, the fact that they've now whittled down their polling team to just 2 pollsters left sends a big message about what the president wants to hear.
So Democrats on the campaign trail this weekend seem to be shifting away from, calls to impeach the president and really focusing instead on why they feel that they can beat him. But, there have been reports that Democratic voters are actually interested in impeaching the president. And so the Democratic Party has had to sort of grapple with what they think voters want versus what they think is sort of right for the party. Is this a winning strategy to sort of focus on how they can beat him as candidates, especially in light of sort of the recent polling that we're now talking about?
Yeah, well, our new battleground tracker shows that this is exactly the right strategy. 69% of Democrats say they want to hear their candidates talking about how they can beat Donald Trump in 2020, while just 31% want to hear them talking about impeaching him. And this is not really a surprise because the entire party, as you mentioned, has really been on a tightrope trying to handle this situation, trying to be firm about impeachment because they know that part of their base really does want to hear about removing him from office, but they also know this could politically backfire. In fact, some sources here at the White House said, yeah, it could actually help us if the Democrats zoom in on impeachment because it shows voters that that's what they're focused on, not on the issues. And I think that's why we're seeing Democrats changing their strategy and focusing more on the issues and on how they can beat President Trump, how they are different from the president. And this is something that Vice President Joe Biden did from the very beginning. When he came out of the gates, he didn't even mention his other candidates. He specifically said, this is my plan for beating Donald Trump. This is why I can do it. And that's why we've seen him rise to the top, which matches what we have found again in our most recent polling, that this is what people want to hear.
Weijia, as you know, the president has a campaign rally scheduled tomorrow in Orlando, Florida. He says he plans to make a big announcement there. What are you hearing?
So this is the official launch of his second presidential run. They're announcing it officially tomorrow, of course. It's no surprise. And in some ways, he's already been campaigning since he took office, right? I mean, I can tell you that at all the campaign rallies, even during the midterms, where he was supposed to be, they're stumping for another congressional Republican. It quickly turned into a President Trump campaign, a reelection campaign. The president often talks about his goals, about everything he's accomplished, about how he has made America great again. And so using that language just channels 2016, and that's nothing new. But tomorrow is the formal event in Orlando. There will be a big festival throughout the day and then a Make America Great Again rally at night. And he's already touting the numbers, saying that more than 100,000 people have asked for tickets for just 20,000 seats, and it's going to be historic, as he describes it.
We'll be watching. Weijia at the White House for us. Thank you, Weijia.
Thank you.
As President Trump prepares to formally announce his 2020 re-election bid, we have a new CBS News Battleground Tracker poll on the Democrats running for the White House.
That's right. Joe Biden is still on top, but Senator Elizabeth Warren has now overtaken Senator Bernie Sanders for second place. Senator Kamala Harris rounds out the top 4. Anthony Salvanto is CBS News' director of election and surveys. He spoke to Elaine Keano yesterday about the state of the race.
When you look at all the candidates voters say they're considering, even if they're not voting for them right now, you see a much tighter race. They're considering Biden, of course, but also Warren, Sanders, Harris, to a lesser extent Buttigieg. I think that really describes the top tier of candidates that we see heading into these debates.
And what does electability mean to Democrats, and who's seen as most electable?
Well, they certainly prioritize it. Democrats say they have to be convinced someone can beat President Trump before they'll vote for them. Biden right now in the lead in that sense. Most Democrats think he can. The others seem to be more 50-50 propositions in the minds of Democrats. That's a case that they'll have to make.
Well, is there a difference, Anthony, between progressives and moderates in the party on what voters want from a candidate?
It appears there is right now. You've got folks who say they'd like the party to advance a more progressive agenda than they've ever had before. They're for Biden, but also just as much for Warren or for Sanders. But the folks who say that they'd like a more moderate candidate, one who'd return to past administrations' policies more, they're more for Joe Biden. And that's a division I think we watch closely going forward, Elaine.
All right, Anthony Salvanto. Anthony, thank you.
Thanks.